Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Tiago Duarte, and welcome to another live stream here at Daily Beats. This is the producer show, and in today I have a couple of questions here already set up so that I can answer them here in the live stream. This is the live stream called the producer show, and the idea with this live stream is to gather all of your questions and answer them here in videos. So that I can help you out, speed up your learning process so that you can become a better producer faster. And so that is just you and music. I think that's the best feeling in the world. At least when I'm making music, everything goes away because I get into a different mood, I guess. So I will be doing these live streams every Saturday at around 6 p.m. GMT +2, which is the Berlin time. In Germany. I'm located in Stuttgart, so that's the time zone. So you can always go and check. If you want to have your questions answered, you can leave them here in the chat. You can leave them in the comments in the videos. Sometimes I don't reply that fast, but I always try to gather the questions that I see on the comments, in the comment section in the videos here in the YouTube channel. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter where I send every Saturday or so, every Friday or so, I send an email with a form where you can post questions, and those questions will have a higher priority compared with the rest of, with the rest of the other questions. Okay, so I think that's it. Sorry, my English is not that great today. I think that's it in terms of announcements or in terms of what this is all about. And yeah, let's start into going through the questions. And the first question that I have here, it's a very simple one, but is one that I use a lot, is a tool that I use a lot, or a concept that I use a lot when I'm recording MIDI, which is how to quantize MIDI. So sometimes, at least with me, I'm not the most proficient keyboard player. I like to play around with some keys. I like to do some melodies, and I think that's a really cool thing when you are making music. I don't like to use too much my mouse. I prefer to use the keys, or at least get an idea of what I'm going to play. And I just play whatever it comes out, and then I always quantize my notes, either manually or with a tool. So let's go jump into FL Studio so that I can show you what I do for quantization. So let's say that I have here a, let's do a piano just for sake of it. This is probably a little bit too fast. Let's go with 90. And let's, I'm probably not going to play anything very interesting, just the 2 scales of C and then a C minor. So let's play something like that, so just to get an idea of what I mean with quantization. So if I now enable recording, you can see that I have this enabled recording automatically, and this is because I have my Arturia Keylab 61, which has some transpose controls. And you can also hit here and do notes and automation if you just want to play or record some MIDI. And another thing that I like to do is put here the 4 bars at least, and put this in song mode, because if you do it in pattern mode, you will only get like 1 bar and then it will repeat, and sometimes it can break your rhythm. So let's play something here. Let's have the metronome on, and let's see what I can come up with here. Okay, something very simple, nothing too crazy. And if I start zoom in here, you see that this is all, some are closer, some are very far away, like this one. And what else? For instance, this one is kind of close. This one is pretty much on point. This one is the most on point. But you can see it's all a little bit off. This one is a mistake. And you can see that as I go later, this kind of looks a little bit off. If I play this, sounds good, but as you can see, it's kind of sounds like amateur. It's not very tight, and of course, because I'm not the most prolific player, I just like to play stuff in the keyboard to get a feeling, and then I go back and quantize. So what I do for quantization, sometimes in this case, what I like to do, if I have stuff like this, I like to keep these imperfections here. And this is the stuff that is hard to do if you have a mouse or if you place the notes with a mouse. As you can see, it's always all perfect in the right position. But I like to have these variations here. This makes the song or the melody that you are playing a little bit more organic and a little bit sounding better. So what I like to do basically is just select the notes. I can go to none there in the scale, and then I just, or in the snapping, sorry, and then I just move notes around. I can do this manually, but this can sometimes take a little bit of time if you want to do. So let me just do this for the first ones, and I don't like to always put it on time. I like to give it a little bit of a difference. Some I put on time, others I put a little bit off, so we can still have some type of swing. So for this one, I'm going to do it manually, and for the second part, I will do it with a tool, automation. Not automation, but with a tool that will help us speed up this. So as you can see now, it's a little bit more in time, something like that. And as you can see, if I zoom out, they seem all in position. So if I play at least this part here, the first part, so we still get a little bit of those variations, like whenever I don't hit the notes exactly at the same time, and that makes it a little bit more human. And also here the timings, as you can see, or the volume, the velocity of the notes are not perfect. So this can also give a little bit of human feel to your recordings. So let's do this part here with the tool. So what I like to do is select the notes that I want to quantize. And then there's a shortcut, but you can also go here to the wrench, which is the tools. And there's several options here. You can do quick quantize, and this will quantize without showing any menu or something like that. So if we do Control Q, as you can see, this automatically, or it should quantize based on the grid. So let's put this in step mode, and let's do quick quantize. And as you can see, this goes very, very precise and also quantize the end of the notes. And based on your snapping or snap to grid mode, you can do that. So let's do Control Z to get back the notes. And I can go, for instance, to 1/4. Oh, actually, let's go to 1.5, like that, and it will quantize in the entire one. So if I do again quantize, you see that now it's very in the grid. So let's listen. Very perfect, but sometimes that's not what I'm looking for. Let me put in step mode, and let's do this again, and let's listen to see the difference. As you can see, in this one is all very tight and always a little bit more mechanic. And this one has a little bit more feeling, and I prefer that feeling of the first part than the second one. The best way to do this, I would say, is with the Quantize tool. You can see it's Alt Q. So let's do the shortcut Alt Q, and now it shows these red lines here, and we have some options here for the strength. We can also do some template. I will keep the template as the default one, but we have strength. And here says the starting time. So I can quantize the starting time all to 100%, or I can loosely do some quantization. So I can put 0 and it will give no quantization. But if I want to just quantize maybe, let's say 90%, this will quantize, but it will not do a 100% shift of the of the notes, which is really, really nice. So let's maybe zoom in a little bit in some sections here. This one here, as you can see, has some notes on point and some others off. So let's do that again. And as you can see, 100% will quantize directly into that red line. If I start removing a little bit, maybe 90 or 80, like that, you see that now we still have the notes closer than if it was no quantization, but we can see that it's moving the notes closer and closer as we add more quantization. But as you can see, I lost again that that difference here in the beginning of the notes, which, as you can see, this difference, for instance, and this one. And I would like, maybe this one is a little bit too much, but I would like to keep that. So that's why I usually do this by hand. I move the notes by hand and I do not quantize. I do quantization when it matters, which is mostly for kicks and basses. So whenever I have a kick, I would like my kick to be really in time and my bass to also be in time, because that can create some phasing issues. So, but here in the piano, I like to keep these variations to give the melody a little bit more human feel and human vibe. Okay, but let's assume that I want to do a very tight quantization. Let's go on 100%. Then we have here the sensitivity, and this only matters when you don't have 100% here. So let's go maybe to 80. And then let's move the sensitivity. As you can see, this will move some of the notes around. So you can play also with the sensitivity to make sure that you are in one or the other line there. And then you can also quantize the duration. So in this case, I'm leaving the original duration, but you could put leave and time. And you can also do quantize duration, which will make sure that the note is step, because we selected here in the snap to grid. And of course, we can always make this duration different. And we can also quantize the end duration and the end time. I like to leave the duration. If I don't, I like to keep this variation here to make the track a little bit more interesting. And then we have levels. The levels already are different. You can also quantize that. The velocity, or actually this is the panning, sorry. We can also quantize the velocity. In this case, it's not doing anything because it's all correct. And let's do accept. And let's play this part. So this part here, the third and fourth parts are a little bit more tight, and it all depends on what you expect from the track. Sometimes you might want to have a tighter quantization. Sometimes you want a looser quantization. And let's see how I would do it in this case. So let me see. Maybe this one would go a little bit more like that. This one, I can put it like so. Let's, by the way, put this in none. So this one is a little bit off. This one is way off. Let's do something like that. This one too. And maybe make it a little bit more in time. Okay. This one is a little bit, it's way off. So we can move this one here. This one also. As you can see, it's a little bit of extra work, but it will maintain the original vibe that you played. And that's sometimes what you are looking for. So let's listen now. And by the way, let me copy just one here so that this is pretty much the same. Okay, let's hear from the beginning. Okay, and that's pretty much it, how you do quantization, or at least how I do quantization in MIDI. It's very easy, and sometimes I prefer to put a little bit more extra work by quantizing by hand, but keep that human vibe and human feel of the track, and not have, or the recording, and not have it very, very mechanical, because that sometimes can how can I say, it will not sound bad, it will sound always in time, but it doesn't give you that human feeling that we are looking for in our tracks. Okay, I hope that helps. Then I have here the second question, which is what is audio, or what is audio blur? Audio blur is a concept, or a feature that you find a lot in Edison, and it's something really, really cool. So let's jump into FL Studio so that I can show you, and I will use the same melody that I have here, or at least I will export this as an audio clip. Okay, so now I have the melody here, and we can reuse this in Edison. So let's open this in Audio Editor, which will open an Edison page. Hopefully, where is it? Okay, my second monitor. Yeah, so this is the loop that we have. Okay, very simple. But if we go now here into this option here, which is the water drop, I guess, maybe, there's this option here. If you look at the hint panel there, it says blur. So this will apply some type of a long, very, very long reverb, which will blur all your sounds. So as you can see now, it's very percussive, because the notes are very short, and tan, 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 and this will try to apply, or not try, it will apply a very big blur to the, with a very large size, to the entire sound. So let's see what this will do, and this can create some really, really cool effects. So let's preview it. So as you can see, it pretty much washed out all the sound that we had, and we can play around with the amount, with the offset, but I will for now keep it like this. And one thing that we can do is reuse these samples. So let's open up here the channel rack, and we can drag this sample into here and start playing around with the samples. So let's do like this, so that I can play and stop the note. Okay, maybe not chords. So let's try to play around with the pitch. Maybe I would use something like this in a lower pitch. Let's try to lower the pitch instead. Let's go maybe 700. Let's go even lower. So now we have a completely different sound. So what I would do with this one would probably just play it here. Something like that. Let me reset the velocity, and let's see how this sounds like. So let me put this in step mode so that we have a 4-bar loop. Let's listen. Okay, so maybe what instead of doing it here, or instead of going all the way through, I like this first part here. Something like that. And this could give you a simple idea for a new track. So let's do that, and let me bring a loop just for quick and dirty things. Let's do with this one here. Let's do maybe all the first part only. Let me bring this loop down a little bit. And maybe we can even play around with the pitching, with the pitch here. Maybe that's too much. Let me see. Yeah, I like that 1G. And as you can see, we can then play around and do some other effects. Let me lower this down a little bit. It's too loud. And of course, we can always filter this out. Let me do the telephone. Okay, and we can even add some distortion maybe. Let's see. Okay, so this could be a beginning of a new beat or something like that. I'm not going to use this, but as you can see, it can give you a different vibe to your sounds. You can transform a sound or a sample completely and give it a new vibe, a new feeling, a little bit more darker, maybe more happier, depending on the sample. But doing some blur with Edison, it's a very cool tool because it can really alter the sounds that you have and can give you some new inspiration when making music. So I think that's it for this question. Okay, next up, I have one that to be honest, I don't usually use too much. And the question is how to make a project template. So this is also, I've done this in the past where I will have a lot of routings and a lot of stuff in my tracks. And I will have like a mixer with maybe 10 tracks for drums, 10 tracks for basses, and 10 tracks for instruments, and then vocals. Nowadays, I don't use that too much because whenever I make a beat, I usually have some very simple routing because the most complex routing, I do it in the mixing section. And I do that in Studio One. So here in Daily Beats, in FL Studio, I just like to open up the tool, and that's the empty preset that I usually have. But let's go first through some presets that we have available in FL Studio, and then we can see how to create a new preset. And you can also see how presets can be a very valuable tool or a very valuable way to make music or to start some inspiration when you are making music. So to open up your projects templates, you go here. You can see always this is the last template that you open. In this case is empty with 4 cents. But if we go here, new from template, we have several templates here. We have some advanced templates, and this gives you like a starting out of your beats, and this can really help you out with some ideas. For instance, let's open up here the hip hop trap preset or template. So it says start producing hip hop / trap, includes placeholder channels, mixer routing, and color coding. So this could be also a really cool way to start your track. So let's see how does this look like. Pretty much everything you need to start producing trap tracks, includes mixing, routing, mixing with the mixer part on the right mixer dock, and mastering part on the left mixer dock, placeholder, color coding, and many other production tools. Okay, so let's see with this. Okay, so this is really cool because now let's see what do they. How can I go? Can I see them? No, this is a control surface, but I should be able to see the other side of the okay, let's see first what we have here in the mixer. As you can see, let me put this aside. As you can see, we have a bunch of routing with some stuff here. So I like to first do my tracks on FL Studio, but then I like to export everything and do some what's the word that I'm looking for, and do the mixing on a different tool like Studio One, because I like to separate the two processes. But as you can see, it already gives us some EQ here, some effects, some delays, and stuff like that. So we could this could also my English today is not that great. This could also be a really nice place to start. Let's see what we have here. So as you can hear the hi-hats, it will bounce between left and right. Okay. Some delays there in the percussions. Let's see here. These are a little bit more for trap, I would say, more EDM trap rather than just normal hip hop. Let's see this one. This would be the sub. Let's see what they did for the sub. No effects. But again, they do a sub with 3x oscillator, which is my favorite tool. Let's see all. Let's see the synth. Yeah, sounds cool. Okay, let's see this one. And of course, the idea here is for you to replace your sounds. So as you can see, this is a pad. Let's say that I want a different pad. What I would do, come here, go with replace, and let's see, one tool that I like for pads would be, for instance, expand 2, like so. And we still have it route to channel 17. And I would go for, I don't know, huge pad. So you can always change stuff. This doesn't sound that great, but whatever. We have a reverse crash and a riser. Okay, so this is more for electronic trap or EDM/trap or trap/EDM maybe. And then we have here the control surface, where if I do mute here, then we don't have drums. As you can see now, I'm playing some notes, and actually, yeah, so this control surface basically will take all the groups that you have set up here, and it will mute the stuff. So this could be also a really cool way to have this. But again, to be honest, I prefer to use it very simple with no stuff like that. Let's see trap here. No. Let's see what do they give us with trap. What instruments that we have here? The same thing. This kind of looks like the same preset. Yeah. Maybe some differences. No, pretty much the same preset. Yeah, this vocal sounds a little bit weird. Okay, but yeah, so we have some templates here. We have minimal. Usually this is the one that I use, empty with 4 cents. I like to have an empty canvas whenever I'm going to start making music. Then video shopping, performance, so APC, launchpad. If you have a launchpad or a machine, this could also be some really cool presets. I could see using this one if I had like an Akai APC or something like that, or even a launchpad. This could be one very interesting to use. And then we have here some utilities, which I don't know, this could be also interesting, but I prefer to go with empty. So let's say that you want to have a drums group. You might want to have, for instance, a bass group. Let's call this G, bass group, and you might also want to have instruments, something like that. A very simple thing. And you might also have all these ones routed to a single channel, and you might call these, for instance, mix, or not mix, okay, something like that. I will do something like this, and then the mix will be all to the master. And we can also add some separators here to do that. Let's do another separator here, and like so. And then I would start adding some instruments from the channel 5 upwards. And of course, then I would do the routing exactly. So this could save you, like, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds or whatever, but it's kind of boring doing the same thing over and over. So what you can do is, if you know that you want this as a template, you can just go here, save as, and probably this is going to ask you where do you want to save the thing. So let me see if I can find the exactly the change default template. Let's see if I can find the template folder. That will be an issue. So let's see. No, where will that be? I don't know where is the default template. So as you can see here, you can set up the startup project. Let me do a quick search on image line default template folder, something like that. Okay, I have something here. Let me see if I can open the folder that it says. It says C program files x88. Actually, I'm in a different one. Image line. Okay, and then as you can see, I have a bunch of FL Studio versions, and let's see, it says FL Studio 20, so the one that I have is this one. Then would be data, templates, and this is where you want to place your track. So let's copy this file. As you can see, it's C program files x86 image line FL Studio 20. I mean, this would be the last version that you have. As you've seen, I have a bunch of versions, data and templates. So let's copy this and let's go to save as. Let's put this into this folder and let's call this my templates, something like that. And let's call this groups routing, something like this, or mix and groups routing, something like this. And that's it. That's pretty much it, what you do. And now if I do like new empty with 4 cents, it will give me the empty one, as you can see. But if I go now here, if I go to, it doesn't show. Let me see, should have. Okay, maybe it doesn't recognize the folder there. So maybe I have to come back here and do my templates on others, for instance. Let's do that. Let's see if it will read my one. So probably not. Probably I have to do a restart. So let me do that again. Let's go to others. Let's copy this out. Let's see, I have there. Now I have to do a FL Studio restart. So let me just close the tool and open it again to see if this will fix that. No, it doesn't show. That's strange. It should give me the... okay, so now maybe I missed it. Let me see. As you can see now, if I go to File, New from Template, I have this one here. Should give me a folder because as you've seen here, I added a folder called My Templates. Let me copy this to see if this would give me, let's put version 2, if this will give me like My Templates folder. It should give me My Templates folder. That's what I was hoping for, but no, it only gives me one. And let's select this one. And as you can see, this gives you the template that I had. Let me see if I do it again. No, it only shows one. Let me open up or close the FL Studio again and open it up again to see if that fixes the issue. No. And let me show you. This just gives me 1 and 2. Unfortunately, this might be a bug, to be honest. I'm not sure. But yeah, this should give me like a folder, like you see here, these folders here. And then inside those folders, it should give me like a nice template to work with. But again, it doesn't. So I don't know what's up with this. But again, you can also have your templates here. And if you set, for instance, this one, actually, you probably have to change the default template. Okay, so I would have to go here and change to the one that I want, maybe mix and group routing, close this one. And as you can see now, I have my template there. So every time if I go and say an empty one, every time that I go to new, it will give me my default template. So this could be a really cool feature to help you out when you want to set up your FL Studio. So let me go back to empty with 4 cents. I like this one, and that's what I want. And by the way, let me clean up my temp folder, which should give me actually, this should give me a subfolder, but yeah, it is what it is. Maybe in future versions, FL Studio will, if they see this video, FL Studio will check that and fix the issue. All right, let's go to the next question, which is how to do parallel compression. So parallel compression is a really cool concept when you want to beef up your drums, for instance, or when you want to beef up your vocals. It's a really cool way to add some power to the vocals. And let me show you how to do that in FL Studio. So let's start with drums. Let's bring up a loop, because usually loops are easy to work with. We can use this one. Maybe this one here, which is the normal loop here. Let's bring the time down. We stretch it and let's see. So I have this loop. Let me bring this to the mixer and let me lower it a little bit. So I have here the loop. And let's say that I want to do some side chain or parallel compression. What I would do is, there are 2 ways to do this. One is the easiest way and dirty way, not dirty, but the easiest way. And then another one is the cleanest, more elegant way. I will start with the easiest one, which is to just route this track to a different channel. So you have the routing of the loop going directly into the master. Now what I want to do is send a copy of this signal into another track so that I can apply some compression. And to do that, you can just go here and route to this track. I recommend to keep the routing at 100%, and then you move around the fader so that you can have the amount that you want. So if I copy this value and I paste it here, what will happen is that we will have double of the volume. As you can see, it's -3. If I take this out, it goes to around -6, around there, or somewhere between there. So it will be double of the volume because 3 dB is double. So what I would do is, since I have this one here, so let's do this parallel. I don't know if it's 2 R's, no, parallel comp, like that. And what I can do, for instance, is add some compression with, let's start with the limiter, and let's move to compression, and let's do a very aggressive compression here. So a ratio, let's do a big ratio, And one thing that we can do to see how it sounds, the compression, we can remove the routing of the loop to the master. And now we just listen to this part here. Okay, let's bring now the threshold down. And let's maybe play with the attack. Let's do less release. Very aggressive. We could also add some saturation. Okay, this would be enough. We are squashing the drums a lot, as you can hear. But let's now mix this with the original loop. So let's bring the loop again into the master, and let's bring the parallel compression down, and let's increase the level as we go up. Let's see now the before. As you can see, it just gives a little bit of, it makes the drums a little bit beefier. Of course, it also increased the overall volume of the drums, but it can really help with bringing a little bit of grittiness to the drums. Of course, you can also do this with vocals. You can pretty much do this effect with anything that you want. You can also do this with the mix. I would prefer to stay away of the mix channel when you do these type of effects. This could be more interesting to be used in individual instruments like drums, vocals, maybe some pianos or stuff like that. But mostly I would just do this with drums and vocals to beef them up a little bit. And you can see that whenever I remove, the drums sound a little bit more dull. Let's listen again. And now let's do the same thing, but with no compression. Let's turn on the compression here. Turn on again. So this is just an example, of course, but as you can see, whenever I turn on the compression, it just makes the drums a little bit more gritty, gives them a little bit more, at least in the hi-hats, because are the lowest volumes part of the loop. It makes them a little bit higher and gives them, because of I added some saturation, it also gives them a little bit of grittiness. And this could be a really cool tool or option to do. Of course, you want to play around with the volume to mix the volume correctly, but this can really make your drums pop out of the track and the mix and make your mix sound more interesting. Okay, I hope that answered the question. Let's see. The next question here that I have is, what is audio and plugin latency? So this is a really cool question, because I don't think we talk a lot about latency, both in audio or in plugin latency. And excuse me. Latency basically is just something that happens due to the delays in interface communication. So what happens when we are talking about maybe audio latency, or the latency between the interfaces, audio interfaces, and then I will talk about plugin latency. And what is latency is the time, for instance, let me explain you my setup here. I have my keyboard here, my Arturia Keylab 61. Then I have this connected through SP to my computer, and then I have FL Studio recognizing the Keylab 61 as a plug-and-play MIDI device. Whenever I click on a note in my keyboard, it takes time from that note to be processed in the Arturia Keylab 61, in the CPU of this MIDI device. Then has to go through the MIDI cable or the USB cable as MIDI, then has to come into the computer, be processed by the motherboard and the CPU. Then the operating system has to send that information directly into FL Studio. So all of this takes time, and this time from the moment that I click on the note and the note is activated, and the time that I see the note being activated in FL Studio, this time is called the latency. And it happens in pretty much all software, in pretty much all devices. There will always be latency, and you cannot avoid it. What you can do is work around it, and latency is below 12 or 20, maybe 20 milliseconds. I think it's 12 to 20 milliseconds. It's not perceptible to the human ear. And if you have latencies higher than that, then you will have a difference, or you will recognize some artifacts or some delay whenever you click on a note and then you hear it on the FL Studio. And then you also have to introduce the latency of, so let's say I click a note in my keyboard, then the information travels into the computer, goes into FL Studio, then FL Studio has processed this, has to generate a sound through my virtual instruments, then has to process that sound, go through the effects, then send that sound or that information through the operating system to the motherboard, and then into my headphones or speakers. All of this takes time. And if that time is less than 12 milliseconds or 20, you will not have a difference. You will not perceive a difference. If that difference is higher, then it will be very hard for you to play because the latency is too high, and you will notice a difference whenever you click and whenever you hear, and that will affect your musicality. So this is for instance, the interfaces latencies. The same happens with my audio interface, because my audio interface is connected through USB, and most of audio interfaces are connected through USB. And you can always tweak the audio configurations to either lower the latency. When you are recording, you want very low latency. When you are mixing or doing very processing intensive projects, you might want to increase the latency, because it doesn't matter. For instance, if you are mixing, you just hit play and it might take like 500 milliseconds, and it will be okay because all the sound will play at the same time, and you are not interfacing with FL Studio through a MIDI keyboard or a microphone or something like that. So that's okay. So when you want to just mix a project, you might increase the latency if you have issues with dropouts. But if you don't, if you want to record, you might reduce the latency so that you can, whenever you talk, it automatically goes in, not automatically, but you have a very short latency, and you will not have too much problems with time alignments when you are recording audio. So that's audio / interfaces / devices latency. Then you have plugin latency. So what is plugin latency? What we have in digital systems, like DAWs, Digital Audio Workstation, what we have is we have some a thread or a process that processes audio. And then we have our instruments. And what happens is that, let's say that I have an EQ, a compressor, and then a reverb. What happens is that the data will be sent, or the audio data will be sent to those plugins to be processed, and to the plugins to process the effect, and then spit out a piece of data, new data, with the effects on it. And some plugins just take the data that you send them and right away process it and give it away. So other plugins have to wait for more data to process. So let's say that we have a compressor with look ahead. What happens is that because the plugin is applying some look ahead, so is looking in the future what's going to happen so that it can apply a better a different type of compression, what happens is that the plugin has to delay the processing of the data. So what happens is that you send, or the FL Studio sends a package of data into the plugins, and then the plugin has to wait a little bit longer, maybe for 2 or 3 packages of data, and then it can process those packages of data, processes them, and then starts spitting out after maybe the 4th package of data. So this also increases the latency, the plugin latency. And it's a different type of latency, but the concept is the same. It's just a delay in the communication or in the processing of the data that happens with plugins. And some plugins have very short latencies, like 1 sample of latency. Some plugins have like 20 milliseconds of latency. One plugin that has a lot of latency that I can remember of is one that I use in my mastering chain is Isotope Elements. Another one is from Waves, which is the linear multiband compressor. That one also uses a lot of latency. So it all, luckily FL Studio does a very good job internally with processing the different types of latencies in the plugins so that you don't hear any artifacts. So what would happen is that let's say that you have 2 different channels playing. Let's say in one you are playing a drums and in the other one you are playing a bass. Let's say that in the drums you apply an EQ and compressor, and in the bass you don't do anything. What happens is that if the drums, the plugins that you have in the drums, if they apply like 10 milliseconds each of latency, you will have 20 milliseconds of latency in the drums. And from the time you hit play, you will have the bass playing, and only after 20 milliseconds you will start hearing the drums. And this can create some misalignment of your timings in your productions. What happens internally is that FL Studio detects that latency, the sum of the entire latency of the channels, and then adjusts everything. So in this case, you would hit play, the data would be processed or sent to the compressor, EQ and compressor in the drum channel, and then the bass channel will wait also 20 milliseconds to start sending audio. And this way you will only have all the channels aligned with the same time latency, so that you don't have misalignments and phasing issues with your channels. Yeah, I know it's a little bit complex concept, but it's very important to understand because we are working in digital systems, and the better you understand latency, the better you will have, or the better understanding you have from DAWs, the better you will be able to use them and manipulate them in your own projects, and understanding more about these. The tool that we use to make music is essential to make better music. Oof, that was that was a hard one to explain. I hope I did a good job with it. So next we have the final question, and we are already reaching the 7 o'clock mark, but let's go with this one. Let's finish with this last question, which is how to sound design a kick for techno. This is a really cool one. So let's jump into FL Studio, and let me open up a new one here, and let's close the browser. We can also close the mixer. One of the tools that I like to use is to use samples, but in this case is how to sound design your own kicks. There are a couple of third-party plugins that are really cool when it comes to creating or sound designing your own techno tracks or techno kicks. But in this case, I'm just going to use native plugins from FL Studio. If we go to the drum section here, we have 2 plugins that could be interesting. One is the Fruity Kick, and the other one is the bass drum. So let's open bass drum, and then let's open up Fruity Kick also. So as you can see, they are very different, of course, but they This one is a little bit more complex, bass drum, and this one is a little bit simpler. So let's see how do they sound like so. Let's put this maybe 127. Okay, this is out of the bat. Let's go with this one and let's see the difference. So right away, I would prefer to use this one. This one sounds more like a techno kick rather than this one. Okay, but we can still try to manipulate this to get a little bit better understanding of this one. So let's see what we have here. We have minimum, maximum, and minimum. So this would be maximum frequency. This will be minimum frequency. Then we have decay, amplitude decay, click, and distortion. So let's remove all of these. Let's hit play. So here will be the maximum frequency. Maybe let's put it there and let's see here. This will be the lowest frequency. Okay, let's play around with the decay. And as you can see here, this one will make the kick lower or higher. Would be nice to have the actual note. Okay, let's add a little bit of click, and let's add a little bit of distortion. So one thing about this one is that I will maybe add some envelope to make it a little bit shorter. Let's add some tension here. Okay. Let's see, man. Let's maybe go it a little bit lower. As you can see, would be a combination of the parameters here and the envelope. So I could use a kick like this very easily. Let's see if we have patterns or some templates. We do have, but again, this would be the way I would do this in combination with the envelope here. The envelope would be something very important to shape how the sound would, how the kick would look like or sound like. With just these knobs here will not be possible to do a very precise job. So this is a little bit less, it's a little bit easier to work with, but a little bit less, what's the word that I'm looking for? A little bit less features. So it has way less features than the bass drum. Let's go to the bass drum now. And let's play around with this. So we have already here some presets that we can have. So we can have high frequency metal, hard clap, and so on, soft clap. And we can play around with attack, decay, sustain, and delay, pitch, stuff like that. So we have this main. Okay, let's see this peak here. The bass. We can make it shorter. Reduce the sampling ratio. This can make the drums or the kick a little bit grittier if you want a more old school type of kick. Let's add a little bit of sub bass. Okay, let's see in this one here. I don't want to have necessarily too much of a click. Maybe there. Let's lower this one. This one is nice because it shows me actually the frequency. So this would be 50 Hertz. And then we can play around with the phasing. And as you can see, we have way more parameters to work with here. And there's a bunch of other kicks here. I actually like this one. We can also, no, actually we can't work with the envelope, so I would have to do something here, or maybe do some sampling and then do the envelope with the kick itself. So as you can see, this is a very comprehensive tool. The idea here is not to actually go through every single parameter here in the bass drum, but as you can hear, it has some really cool patterns that you can start with, or templates, and then we can go around and play with some of the levels here. So let's say I actually like this with a less sampling ratio. So again, this could be how I would do my own kicks, and of course you can play around with the levels. Let me put this at 50. Okay, let's do. I actually like this one here, for instance. Yeah, so this would be the first two tools that I would use to make my own techno kicks. Use bass drum or the fruity kick, because these tools are really cool to make your own kicks and have your sound. If you don't want to use external sample packs or drum kits, you can just go ahead and use your bass drums, because these also you can have a little bit more control over the frequency, so you can really tune your bass with your kicks, and that can really help bring a lot of power to your bass line and make your bass line a little bit more interesting. So I have here a question. So can we remove the FAL list patterns and effects in the left to have more space in the grid arrangement? FAL list patterns and effects in the left. So first of all, hi Ruben. I'm not sure what you mean with remove the FL list patterns and effects in the left. So in which window are you talking about? To have more space in the grid arrangement. So the arrangement would be on the left, or on the playlist, the grid arrangement, and the FL Studio. Okay, so these FL list patterns and effects on the left. So I don't think there are effects here. I don't think these are effects. It's just patterns, automation, and actually audio clips and automation. By the way, let me show you. As you can see here, we only have patterns, audio clips, and automation. So I assume you are talking about this one. The other day, I was actually looking into some of these views here, but I don't think there is any option here. We can invert the grid, track segments or separators, keep labels. No. Yeah, I don't think there is any way to hide. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing too much stuff there. Let's see. Main playlist preview should be this one. No. I the other day I was also looking at some option to remove or to hide the left panel, picker panel. Okay, here it is, the picker panel. You go to the triangle, picker panel, and you set it on enable or disable. As you can see, the shortcut is Alt P. So if we are here, you can do Alt P and it will show you this one here. So I think that's what you meant. We can not also change the size here of the track. So the tracks are fixed to this side here, but if you do Alt P, we can go and hide the picker panel here. That's a cool name. Show on right side. We can also do it on the right side. We can change the width. So large, small, and tiny. Let's do it regular. Let's put it on the left. Select linked channels. Drag to rearrange. Yeah, so you can also change some of the options here. But yeah, this is the picker panel, and you can do Alt P. Actually, I've learned something today also, because the other day I was looking around it to try to see if there was a way to remove this from the, or to hide this, and I couldn't find it because I was like, whatever, I will just leave it as it is. But yeah, there's a way. As I've said in the past, there's always several ways to do the same thing in FL Studio, and pretty much everything is customizable. And I was not sure which option was it, but that's it. Alt P to hide the picker panel. Thanks for the question. I think that's it for today. It's already 7:11. 7:11. That's a cool name. And yeah, I think that's it. I had fun today. Was a cool live stream. Thanks for the questions. If you want to have your questions answered, you can leave them here in the chat. You can also leave them in the video comments on my YouTube channel. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter. I have a link in the description where I will be sending every Friday. I will be sending an email with a form that you can post questions there, and those questions will have higher priority. I will always make sure that I answer those questions first. This is, again, the FL Studio, or not FL Studio, the Producer Show. This is a live stream that I do every Saturday at around 6 p.m. GMT +2, which is the Berlin time. I'm located in Germany, Stuttgart, so that's the time zone. If you always want to be sure that you participate here in the live stream, that's the timing, so you can always Google it to see how would be translated to your time zone. I think that's it, guys. Thanks for all of the questions. Thanks for participating, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.